Krishna glorifies the knowledge that he is going to give. That is like giving the key to the prison. So we are being locked up now. And if the owner comes and gives, oh, here's the key, you can just free yourself. So literally, this knowledge is something which can be very transformative and also lead to spiritual perfection. So that's why he glorifies this knowledge in the first two verses. And then he speaks like, how does even the soul come in contact with the material nature? And why he explains this is, after the soul comes into the material nature, it has to become attached to that material nature. So who's that binding ropes? What is that binding ropes that binds the soul with the material world? Because the soul is originally spiritual and its natural existence is the spiritual world. Why is the soul existing in the material world? And what's binding it? What's keeping it here? So that is the topic. So that's why he first speaks about how did the soul get here? And then he speaks about what binds that soul to the material world. And there are three ropes. So the characteristics of the mode of goodness is explained in verse 6, mode of passion is explained in 7, and mode of ignorance is explained in the 8th verse. And then there is a summary of how each of these mode binds us. What is the effect of each? If I predominantly live in mode of goodness, what happens? What if I live predominantly in the mode of passion? How do I get affected? And what happens if I'm predominantly in mode of ignorance? What happens of me to me? Or what becomes of me? Of course, before analyzing, we want to know, why is Krishna explaining this chapter? It's going to be a little bit of a repetition from what we saw last week, but it could be helpful. It's going to be quick. So the gunas are central to bondage. We saw that in so many verses before throughout the Gita, but they were never fully explained. What are those modes? We have seen it in 2.45, 3.5, 3.27, 5.14, 9.9. So many verses spoke about the guna, how they bind. Okay, I'm just not getting the verse. But it said, like the verse, which is the famous verse, 3.27, I think. So it speaks that how a person who's foolish thinks that he is acting, whereas the three modes are influencing us. And in 3.5, Krishna says, like, a person cannot even keep quiet for a minute because he is under the influence of the three modes. The three modes will make him do something. We all have to do something. Even sleeping is something. Because, oh, I don't do anything. No, even that is something. That we're not doing anything speaks volumes of our mental state. We are not even interested in doing anything. It speaks a lot about what we are going through. So there is boredom. So everything is an influence of the three modes. So that, however, so far in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna did not explain them in elaborate what these modes are. And then in the 13th chapter, Krishna spoke how bondage and rebirth of the soul result from its association with the three modes. That's like, wow. So if I understand that, if I break that, that means I'm going to be liberated. Jnana Yoga is usually interested in liberation. So that's why Krishna in the next chapter is speaking about this. The mechanism of breakdown of that philosophical concept. How do we get bonded? How do we end up in this bondage, and how to get out of it? And in the 13th chapter, Krishna also said the soul is nirguna, it's free from the three modes. Okay, so then how to get back to that state? So this knowledge also builds urgency and direction. If you really understand this, then we become actually in a good way scared, alert, and start understanding, oh my God, how much I'm being influenced day and night by these three things. And I decide, okay, I'll not check my phone the first thing when I wake up in the morning. I will say a short prayer and remind myself that I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. And then I'll start doing everything. But as soon as I wake up, I'm like, of course, the problem is I have an alarm which is in the phone and it rings, and the first thing I see is the phone. And then, like, when I stop it, the next thing comes is what are the different WhatsApp notifications, Instagram notifications, Facebook notifications. So then immediately the first thing is like you get pulled, and then it sets a tone for the day. So we are all being pulled. So it gives us an urgency and also a direction. It shifts focus from external detachment to inner transformation, because Arjuna has been totally focused on externally renouncing. I will go to the forest, I want to become a yogi, I'll give up everything. So he's just focusing on external detachment. But Krishna is saying, if you become internally transformed, the external detachment can be actually sustainable. Otherwise, it won't be sustainable. Most of the times, people are, like they say, right? Many are called, but a few are chosen. So many people are called have a spiritual calling, they take up to things, but they cannot push through because they don't really understand, like they don't really fully get what is influencing them and how to get free of those influences and how to focus on the main thing. We all get distracted. So the same way Arjuna is distracted, he is thinking the external detachment will help him run away from the situation. But Krishna is saying, no, become internally transformed. So that's why he's speaking all of these things, because the mark of wisdom is recognizing the systems at work beneath your thoughts. Because the way we think is the way we will act. The way we act, we will develop habits, and that will become our destiny, character, and destiny. So, mark of wisdom is to understand, okay, what is making me think like that? I'm so angry. I'm so fearful. I'm so irritated. I'm so, like, why? So the feelings and the thoughts are very connected. So then my feeling is going to make me say things, make me act in certain ways. So understanding, recognizing the systems at work beneath our feelings and thoughts and emotions can be very helpful. And that's the first step in the mark of wisdom. This is a very, of course, approaching things from a bottom up way. In bhakti, gradually we start to chant Hare Krishna, continue to connect with Krishna, and simultaneously we also become aware of our thoughts and emotions. And the more we attune them to mode of goodness and engage it in Krishna, then we rise above. Otherwise, I'm just chanting Hare Krishna on one hand and I'm just angry, I'm just irritated, I'm just like so ballistic, or like I'm so sensitive, like I'm just like I can be disturbed any moment. So then what happens is, like, the chanting that we did cannot actually grow on that platform. So then we need to rise our consciousness to mode of goodness. So whatever we are hearing and chanting has a ground to grow. So finally, the first verse of the chapter. So provoking something. I'm forgetting the verse. So I shall declare to you the supreme knowledge, the best of all knowledge, Krishna says. By knowing this, great sages have attained success in the past. So Krishna is signaling that what follows is param jnana, supreme knowledge. So this knowledge leads to param shanti. It leads to perfection and liberation. And many sages have attained perfection by knowing this, by knowing about the three modes and transcending them. So when Krishna says again, if he is going to repeat it, how can he say this is the best of all knowledge? If I say I'm going to repeat what I said and I say, oh, this is the best of the knowledge, that means you have already spoken the best of knowledge. So why would this be the best of knowledge if you're just repeating? The idea is what he is repeating is not, and just now we saw why Krishna is speaking this chapter is he has not spoken about the three modes before. So then what is he repeating? How can he contradict like that? So what is he going to repeat is that how eventually bhakti is the process. He has come to that angle that how bhakti is the main process through various angles. He has compared it with impersonalism and personalism. He has compared it with the universal form. He has compared it with so many ways. Virat Rupa and impersonal worship, yogic meditation, and then dhyana yoga, and all of these things. Yeah. And again, he has established the greatness of bhakti over all other processes. So now he is again going to say, yes, if you really want to understand the three modes, yes, you can understand. But if you want to get out of the three modes, then you need bhakti. So that is why this knowledge is supreme, because it can help us understand how we are trapped. But if you want to get out of it, bhakti is necessary. So that part is the continuation of a core message that Krishna has been speaking. So this isn't just a theory, it's a transformative wisdom if we understand and apply it. And Srila Prabhupada's purport, if you see, he says that how Krishna taught about the absolute truth in the chapter 7 to 12. And in chapter 13, he showed how knowledge can lead to detachment from the body. And in chapter 14, now he is showing how the soul becomes entangled via modes and how to get out of it. So this knowledge is superior even to what came before because it deals with the mechanics of the bondage and how to get liberated. And that's what Prabhupada says. This knowledge is far, far superior to all other processes of knowledge thus far explained. And of course, there are more points in in that purport. So I hope you all got some time to go through the purports. Even the first verse had like nice things. Prabhupada was writing that how if one understands this chapter through the process of philosophical speculation, he will come to an understanding of devotional service. The more you understand how helpless we are, we'll be able to take shelter of the process of bhakti better. So understanding all of these things is not to go into analysis, paralysis by analysis mode. rather to see what is the solution to rise above the three modes. Sometimes we may not understand completely everything about how we are influenced by the three modes. That does not matter. If you practice bhakti, you will see you're becoming more and more situated in mode of goodness. And from that, you will able to see, if I do this thing, this is going to put me under the influence of the the mode of passion or ignorance. So it's going to cause me trouble. So I won't do this. So we develop that kind of a knowledge gradually. And yeah. And in the second verse, Krishna speaks that by this knowledge one attains my nature and is not disturbed at creation or dissolution. Basically, one gets liberated. So knowledge of the modes leads to sadharmya, similarity in nature with Krishna. What is Krishna's nature? Sachitananda. The soul is also Sachitananda already, but it hasn't realized that. So we'll be able to realize and be situated in that nature. And we become undisturbed by birth, death, creation, destruction, because we'll become liberated, rise above. So the soul does not become God, because people think similarity in nature means the soul will become God. No, it does not become God, but qualitatively becomes similar to God, eternal, undisturbed, and blissful. So liberation means you're not subject to the cosmic cycles anymore. And Prabhupada is highlighting in that purport that how even after liberation, the soul retains its individuality and engages in loving service to Krishna. Spiritual existence is not void or blank, or it's not just an empty Brahman. It's full of variegatedness, activity, and relationship. Knowledge which is not contained by the three modes of nature is called as transcendental knowledge. Such a beautiful definition of transcendental knowledge. What is transcendental knowledge? Prabhupada says in the verse 2, knowledge that is not influenced by the three modes is the transcendental knowledge. Knowledge which is not contaminated by the three modes of nature is called as transcendental knowledge. So that's why this knowledge that we are receiving from Krishna is above the three modes. That's why it is transcendental knowledge. And also Prabhupada says that to obtain such knowledge, one must develop all the spiritual qualities. So one who thus develops the spiritual qualities is not affected either by creation. So basically, we have to also rise to the nature of Krishna. We also go to the level of Shuddha Sattva, rise above the three modes. So one who thus develops the spiritual qualities is not affected by the Lord, either by the creation or destruction of the material world. And Prabhupada also writes, in the spiritual world, one is equal in quality with the Supreme Lord. So these are all same themes. So basically, in the first two verses, Krishna is saying, by understanding this knowledge, you will get liberation. You will become like Krishna in quality and rise above the disturbances of creation and destruction and birth and death, everything. So basically, these days we are worried about, oh, I'm feeling so down today. So let me motivate with some wisdom. So we watch a lot of self help, like that, which motivates us to do something, get better. There is nothing wrong in it. They can lift our moods and just influence us for that day or for a week to get something done. However, what Krishna is doing is he's not just like trying to try uplift your mood like an instant thing. So we are not like consuming content like how we do it in YouTube or Instagram or something. It's not like a reel to see, to feel, laugh for a while, and then go about crying in the real life. He is helping us cultivating clarity through this knowledge. This knowledge may not titillate us like watching an Instagram reel or like a YouTube short. It may not just titillate our senses, but it will help us cultivate clarity. So Krishna is giving us a knowledge to transform our hearts, not just our mood. And in the third verse, Krishna speaks about, third and the fourth verse, Krishna speaks about how did we end up in this world. So many people may think that, oh, it's an accident. I'll go to that first and then come back. So many people may think, oh, it's just an accident. We are here. It's just the mat, like the nature, the universe has decided. So we are here. Or we are just products of matter. We are a bag of chemicals. We just came through the monkeys and we just evolved into this by chance. So it's just here by accident. But Krishna very clearly refutes that. He says, no, you did not evolve from monkeys. Maybe Darwin's forefather was monkey, not necessarily others. Because somebody was asked Prabhupada, easier, did we evolve from monkeys? As Darwin says, Prabhupada said, maybe his grandfather was a monkey, but not mine. So there is divine intervention and intention behind our presence in the material world. So we are not here by accident. We are not a product of matter. We are not a bag of chemicals. We did not, the life did not originate in chemicals, and the species did not originate by evolution alone. Within the species there may be evolution, there may be like this, what you call the fit, survival of the fit. Those could be true within a species, but to transform from species to species, there is no proof. These people are just going about fooling everyone because their agenda is they don't want to accept God. So that's the basic line of truth that they have accepted as truth, basic line of argument. So they are dogmatic. As much as they blame religious people or spiritual people as dogmatic, they are also dogmatic. Their dogma is there no God exists, there cannot be a higher power or a superpower. Everything has to be explained through mathematical calculations and sensory observations, and they come up with stories to fill in the gaps for all the problems they have in their theory. So that's why here Krishna makes it extremely clear that how did we actually end up in this material world where we are influenced by the three modes. He says the total material substance is the womb, and I give the seeds within that, impregnated with the seeds of life. The souls are placed in the material nature by Krishna through his glance. So Krishna describes the origin of creation here briefly. So the material nature is the womb, and Krishna is the seed giving father. So he places the living entities within the material nature. And creation happens through the combination of material and spiritual energies. When he invests the time, when he invests the souls with their karma, and then the three modes become active, then the whole creation begins. We'll see in Bhagavatam actually that part. So this verse shifts the focus to cosmic causality. So it did not come from a big bang. It did not come from the life did not come from originate from chemicals, and the world itself did not originate from a big bang. It's not an accident. So Krishna is the initiator of all life. He is the creator of the material world, and he is the initiator of all life. So in this way, he explains the origin of all living entities through his divine intervention. And in the purport, Prabhupada says everything arises from the Kshetra and Kshetragya. When the body and soul combines, then actually life forms we see as we see. And it's made possible by Krishna. Material nature is not the cause of life. It's activated by Krishna. Prabhupada gives this example. Sometimes you see from a bag of rice, some scorpions come out. In India, if you see in tropical weather, you can experience that. If not scorpions, at least small bugs will come out. But that does not mean they came from rice. Rice is the cause of those living entities. No. So the Lord is the cause of all manifestations of living entities in this material world, Prabhupada writes. And material nature is not the cause of the birth of living entities. The seed is given by the Supreme Lord. So we are not a product of matter. The body is a product of matter, but not the soul. The soul is placed by Krishna, is a part and parcel of Krishna. But says again, and Krishna says in the next verse that of all species of life, they are born from material nature, and I am the seed giving father.
Is the material nature, or is the material nature part of the Mahat?
Okay, that's a good question. There are various stages of the material nature. First, it is in a state of pradhan, it's an unactivated state. Then it gets activated, it is called as Mahatattva. When it transforms into mode of ignorance, then it gives birth to air, water, fire, ether, and all of these things which we call as material nature. So in one sense, it's a different stages. What we currently experience is a very evolved stage of the Mahatattva.
Okay, because here it says,
It's like, is the candy sugar cane?
is the candy sugar?
Is the candy is sugar cane?
No,
But the sugar comes from sugar cane,
it's a
and the candy
byproduct.
is like melted and included with butter and stuff. Then it becomes candy at a certain
Yes.
temperature and all of that. So it's like that. The material nature initially in the state of pradhan, it's like sugar cane, and then it's crushed and the juice is boiled, and then sugar then crystallizes into sugar. Then later the sugar is used to make candy. So something very similar. The pradhan becomes mahatattva, then the mahatattva transforms into mode of goodness, then passion, then ignorance. From that ignorance comes earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and the bodies are made. The demigods come later, and then the Krishna invests all the jivas into that. So it's just it's the same nature, but there are more players in action. So currently, the universe that I see, the house that I see here looks very beautiful, and yeah, means and the nature is beautiful, and all of these things they're there, but they're all evolved from the original pradhana.
Okay, because it's here it says that the Mahatattva is the total cause of the total cosmic manifestation. The material world is also a part of this total cosmic manifestation.
Yes.
And yet we are saying that the material world, the material nature is Not the cause of the birth of the living entity.
It is the cause of the world manifesting, but the jiva was placed within that by Krishna. You understand what is happening there?
Yes, yes, the living. Okay, so then the birth. So then Krishna
So
is the
there is
cause.
material nature, which is in a very unevolved state, in a state of equilibrium. And then what Krishna does is he places the living entities in there, and then he activates the three modes in the material nature. And then he sends time. Basically, time activates the three modes. And the jiva was placed externally by Krishna into the material nature. So the jiva is held separately, and then the material nature transforms into a place in which actually the souls can actually take on bodies and accept like their karma, experience their karma. The world has to transform into a certain stage so that the jivas can accommodate that world. So that world, the cause of that world coming into a place state where the jivas can actually enter into that world and act in certain ways, that part is done by the material nature. The world is basically coming from the material nature, but the jiva does not belong to the material nature. It's a separate energy. The material nature is the external energy of the Lord, and the soul is the marginal energy of the Lord. So they both belong to the Lord. Material nature is not the source of the living entities. That's what is the idea from that statement.
Can we say that the living entities are themselves the cause of their own birth then? And the material nature,
They are the
Prakriti,
cause of their own reincarnation, their own causes. But eventually, they don't even have in certain sense, it's like a child asking, I want a candy. The father has to buy the candy and give it to the child, then and even open it and put it in the mouth of the child. So then the child can experience the candy. But who had the desire first?
the child.
Child. However, the child is dependent on the father to experience that desire.
Yes.
So in
But
that
he's the,
sense, on a certain level, we can say the father is the cause of the candy. In the
no,
sense,
but the
the child
child is
eating the candy.
but the child is responsible for his desire for the candy.
Yeah. I'm not saying no, but you can also see from the other perspective how the candy actually was given to the child by the Supreme Lord, but he is not responsible for it.
Yes, he's not.
He is not responsible, but without him, this living entity cannot experience its desires.
Yes.
So the Lord is the one who placed the living entity in the material nature because the living entity had a desire to be there, but it cannot situate itself on its own. Then the whole mechanism of material nature manifestation, three Vishnus and Mahavishnu, and all of that is needs to be created. That mechanism needs to be created. The soul can actually fulfill its desire of wanting to be separate from God. But the desire is the living entity's desire, own desire, but it cannot accomplish that desire on its own. It cannot create a world of its own and then go and live there. The world has to be created by the Supreme Lord, and then the living entity will take a form particular according to its desire. Then it will think, oh, there is no God, I am the Lord of this world, I created this, I did that out of the ego. But actually it's foolish.
But the material world in which we are living in is also created, although yes, it is Krishna who created it. It has come into the existence due to the desires of the jiva, isn't it? The shape.
See, desire is the only thing belongs to the jiva, nothing else it owns.
Yes.
It
Yes.
owns nothing else. It is dependent on the Lord to create the world, because it cannot create a world and then come and live there.
And the Lord has created the world based on the jiva's desire.
Okay, I'm not saying no about it. So what are you stuck
Is
up with?
that no? I'm just confirming. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
pretty
Yes.
much. Otherwise, he does not need to say, why is the prison created? Because there are criminals.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. Yes.
If there were no criminals for like next 50 years, probably the prison department would become a very minuscule department.
Yes. I
It
get
might
it.
exist, but it would just become like kind of a redundant force.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
I hope I did not scare you.
No. You did not. Thank you.
Okay, Madharendra.
You may speak about this later, but is there somewhere that I read that Prabhupada says the material world is created by the mode of ignorance? I had read that the material world is created by the mode of ignorance. Is that something I misread, or?
No, it is right, because the Mahatattva So there is first state called as pradhan. When everything is in a equilibrium state, the material nature is called as pradhan. Even before, if I have to say, we have seen that image where from the body of Mahavishnu, so many universes come out. So they initially, when they come out, they are in a state of equilibrium. There's no souls in there. It's just matter in a very unmanifested state. Like material ingredients are all there. Like it's everything is there, but nothing is all come together. So then what Krishna does is, like Mahavishnu does, is he glances at that particular universe. Through his glance, he invests the soul that's supposed to go into the universe with along with their karma and swabhava. And then he also activates the time energy. He invests the time. So when the time actually also is invested, then it activates the three modes, which is in a state of equilibrium. So it basically switches on. So then the three modes become active. So when they initially become active, the mode of goodness is the one which rules. So that is what initially it is Mahatattva in the mode of goodness. Then it is called Mahatattva in the mode of passion. Then it finally in the Mahatattva in the mode of ignorance. And in that state of Mahatattva in the mode of ignorance, actually all the elements are manifested. That's why it is said the material world is manifested from ignorance. Because without ignorance, the ego cannot work. So all of these elements, they're all manifested to make us feel egoistic. It's a full blown trap. Every step of it is like very thoughtfully designed. So what we are trying to break free is a very serious matrix. It's a very serious matrix. And in order to see that, even if you read and understand, it's not enough. You need a cheat code. You may have a cheat code sheet, but just that won't make anything. You have to apply it. So similarly, this knowledge, the Bhagavad Gita is like the cheat code for the matrix. The process of bhakti is like that. But the more we engage and understand, because even when we practice, we are still surrounded by the same three modes. Even our bhakti will become influenced by those three modes. I'll think, oh, I give great classes, so I'm a great person. That pride can actually trap me. Another person may think, oh, this person is such a bad. This devotee is becoming so famous. I'll do something to actually drag this person down. Or they're becoming famous. I also want to become famous. So it's mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. So it's all like kind of, we could be involved in bhakti also influenced by all of these things. So that's why it's a whole matrix. It's all created in the mode of ignorance, and it perpetuates the mode of ignorance. So to get out of it takes help. We need help of the bhakti process and guidance. Hope that kind of gave you some idea.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
So life is not limited to Earth. Beings exist on every planet, even within water and fire. So material nature supplies the body, but Krishna supplies the soul. Species diversity is simply the result of karma acting within the matrix of the modes. And Krishna is the original father of all living entities. So you're not just here by accident. There is a divine intention and intervention behind our presence in the material world. And the soul is caught in material nature, but does not belong to it. We are currently trapped here. We don't belong to here. We can get out of this place. So that's what is the idea from this chapter and from these verses. And I know I'm stepping beyond the time limit, but it's just few more verses. We will cover it. So it's a one logical unit. And in verse 5, this is where exactly about the three modes the knowledge begins. Like the three modes, goodness, passion, and Krishna speaks. The verse is very, I remember in one of the commentaries, they even say the word nib, that Krishna calls Arjuna as Mahabaho. You think, oh, you're like, you have huge biceps. Mahabaho means with someone with huge hands, like a very great body. You think, oh, you're such great person, but this will bind you, Nibhanti. However great maybe you may be physically, these three modes can bind anybody. People in this world think they are great, Mahabaho. But these three modes can bind any Mahabaho, any great person. So these three modes are called as him. They can just bind anyone who is bonded in this body. They can just, however great they may be, they can be bound. So the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are born of the material nature and bind the eternal soul to the body. The three modes arise from Prakriti, not from the soul. These modes bind the eternal, unchanging soul to temporary bodily experience. They make us basically identify with the body. That's as simple as that. To the extent I'm thinking I am this body, I am this mind, to the extent I'm thinking anything other than I'm a soul, which is eternally connected to the Supreme, and I'm a servant of Krishna. To the extent we are separate from that original identity, to that extent we are under the influence of the three modes. It basically makes us more and more identify with what we are not. It's as simple. That is called as illusion. Maya means that which does not exist. Ma is that which does not exist. So even though the soul is avyaya, unchanging, when it enters contact with the material energy, it becomes conditioned by the gunas. This verse sets up the real problem statement of the chapter. This is the one problem, main problem we're trying to understand. The bondage is actuated by the three modes. How are we going to resolve that bondage? That's the problem statement of this chapter. Prabhupada writes, the soul has nothing to do with material nature, but becomes conditioned by body types and gunic influences. Our happiness and distress are shaped by which mode dominates. I was recently reading this quote by this guy, Victor. I don't know the full name. He was in the Auschwitz, I think. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing right. It's the Holocaust camp that the Germans had, one of the biggest one. He was in the Auschwitz, and they were actually stripping all the prisoners naked to make them feel helpless and powerless. You imagine, like, you just are stripped naked and you just become like completely, like, you lose all your faith and confidence and hope and everything. And all he had was a ring, the wedding ring that he had in his finger. And when scanning the cell, this German guard saw something is twinkling in that darkness. So he saw, then he scanned and realized this guy has a ring. And this person, everything he had, like in his body, there is one thing that he had, because he didn't even have clothes. The only thing he had was that ring. And it was giving him hope. It was giving him some shelter. And this German soldier said, remove that ring. And this person, while removing the ring, thought in his mind, you may want to break me, but I won't break. So he just had that kind of a vision at that point, the thought, nothing is my shelter. This ring is not my shelter. So even if you take this, I won't feel broken, because there is something within me that actually can never. Suddenly, he just, in that immense amount of suffering, and he just got awakened to this conception that I'm not just this. You're thinking, the emotion, you can manipulate my emotions, but you cannot manipulate me. I can choose to actually not be affected by what you're trying to do to me. And he actually survived through all the ordeals, and then he wrote diary, and then he got freed, and then he spoke about it later. So we are actually free from that. We can make ourselves free from that influence. Everything around us can break, but our happiness and distress are shaped by the modes that we dominate. So we can actually rise above everything. Gokul is saying, he is Viktor Frankl. So the living entity, because he is transcendental, has nothing to do with this material nature. So even if people like just tune themselves to a little bit of mode of goodness, there will be such reckoning forces within the world. Their thought patterns would be so different from everyone else. Other people are all fearful. They are like being so depressed. And if one person just develops some amount of mode of goodness, then immediately they can stand up and they shine. What to speak of becoming free even from all the three modes and standing, like coming to the stage of Shuddha Sat and being influenced by the benefit of Bhakti Yoga. So we can actually free ourselves from so much misery. And these are invisible chains that they are binding us. We don't even really see who's really controlling us. So we are not always in charge, because these subtle forces are at work. Once when we become free from these three modes, then actually we have some control over our lives, better control over our lives. And out of the three, then now we are going to see about the mode of goodness. And the modes are not just around us, they are within us, shaping how we think, feel, and act. So it's not just about adjusting the external environment alone. I can be in the best of the places and I can be still thinking about things which are unbecoming of that particular environment I'm in. Because it's not just what is outside us, it's what's inside us that also matters. That's why Krishna is saying, oh, don't think you go to the forest, you'll become a yogi. You will pick up fight with other sages there, because that's what is within you. You're a warrior. So you will become an angry young man even in the forest. You just shifting your externals from the battlefield to the forest won't cut it. So the key is to recognize the strings and rise above the puppet show. And the last few verses, verse 6, then Krishna speaks about now the mode of goodness. What is its symptom? So the mode of goodness is purer, it's illuminating, it frees one from sinful reactions, but it also binds one to happiness and knowledge. All the senses become very illumined. You don't feel to like do things that are degrading. They naturally don't feel attracted to degrading things. They naturally become very illuminated and purified. I've had this experience like initially attending morning programs when I was very new to the path of when I had just started. The morning programs would just make me feel like so surcharged. I won't feel like very it would take some time. As the number of hours passed, then I would again get pulled. But as soon as I just chanted and attended a program in the temple, I would just feel so uplifted. It was very clear. My senses were like illuminated for a while and they felt much pure. But I could not just sustain it because it wasn't because my practice is still growing. So then when the consciousness is cleansed, then that state could be a constant state. But we do experience some glimpses of it here and now and then. Do you agree with me? We do experience that, but it doesn't stay because our consciousness is not fully cleansed. So it leads to wisdom, peaceful happiness, and it just we feel like a saint. Oh, this person just hit me. Oh, okay, it's fine. Thank you, Prabhuji. It's not a problem. You just feel like a saint, and then we could just be very irritated after a while. Like so, so goodness feels very uplifting and is a better position for spiritual life. But it's still within material entanglement. When people take to it as a separate source, separate from bhakti, it can actually bind us also. You see all these sages, oh sorry, not sages, of course they are also sages, the yogis I have seen sometimes, they're like they have such nice good lifestyle. I've seen some people super good lifestyle and very peaceful, very calm, but still addicted to enjoyment, enjoying this world. Overall the lifestyle is in mode of goodness, but the internal desire is still one of wanting to enjoy the world, so it binds us. And there I have seen like people who are like extremely wise and like very scholarly and very mode of goodness. I've seen some Ramnas in India, like they are very good compared to their lifestyle. Most devotees will fall short when you compare to their lifestyle. they'll they have such strict routines, and they're not even attracted to mundane stuff, rajasic stuff, but they'll be very proud of their lineage, of that particular knowledge that they have, or it just will come there slightly. There is some ego there, that's and also they're like so too comfortable to actually even be devotees sometimes. It's just they have immense amount of mode of goodness in their systems. So the tendency to enjoy and be in this world, and the pride that comes with knowledge, good birth, or great wealth, and all of these things. So one becomes proud of knowledge and happiness, thinking I'm better than others. So philosophers and scientists may be sattvic, but are still bound by ego and identity in the material world. So liberation is not possible even from sattva without bhakti, because that tinge of enjoying, controlling this world, the ego and the propensity to enjoy the world does not go away completely in mode of goodness, even in 100% mode of goodness, which is not possible in this world. Still, even if you had 100% mode of goodness, still it is not possible to be free from that tinge of desire to enjoy and control this world. So this sense of advanced happiness in conditioned life makes them bound by the mode of goodness. So not all happiness is helpful. Everyone in the world wants to be happy and try to achieve happiness in many ways, but not all happiness is even helpful. Even feeling good can subtly trap us. What to speak of things we do stupidly, thinking them to be happiness, and eventually just binds us. And the nature of passion, Krishna explains next. He says, passion arises from desire and attachment and binds the soul to endless fruitive activity. So Rajas is born of craving and attachment. The result is constant activity and striving for results. So this mode keeps one in endless pursuit of success, pleasure, and prestige. It's not that one in mode of goodness does not work. Many people think, oh, I want to be in mode of goodness, so I'll stop doing everything. So that they fall into ignorance, thinking it as goodness. It's not that a person in mode of goodness does not do anything and sits idle. No, they act, but without that attachment to pleasure and prestige. Want to be better than others. Why I do this? Because I want to be successful than others. I just was trying to connect to Wi-Fi. Someone has named their Wi-Fi as I have Wi-Fi and you don't. I was like, wow, that's a good name. They're like, I have Wi-Fi and you don't. So it's a clear attitude. So the modern life is very rajo dominated. You buy this because you want to make your friend envious. Many products are advertised as that. You see the advertisements, they actually invoke your lust and envy in order to buy their products. They're such manipulators today. They don't say the product's worth for what it is. When I was young, the products would be advertised as this is good for your stomach, it will increase your digestion. But today, advertisements are not like that. They'll put a cute girl or something like that, and then boys will be walking around, or the boy will be walking around, the girls will be looking at. They just try to manipulate our emotions. Such rascals. They don't sell the product for what it is. Then you won't buy, right? Anyone who does not have a stomachache won't buy that pill. But if I say that if you take this pill, then people get attracted to you, then even if I don't have a ache, then I just probably think, okay, let me take the pill and see if people get attracted. So they just they just use our weakness and try to sell us. Basically, they have a way to get to your pockets, not to your hearts. So because we are all looking for pleasure and prestige, then we get manipulated. So the modern life in general is Rajo dominated in the cities and everywhere, especially with the social media being everywhere. Whether you go to a city or like a village or like a town, does not matter. Everyone is glued and everyone's aspiration is the same today. It's a very monogeneous culture all over the world. Diversity is being taken away from the world. And Brahmaji says that when he explains in the each species, he tells some things about them in Bhagavatam. And when he speaks about the human life, humans, he says, oh, those ones predominated by Rajogun, I know them. He says, when he creates them, he says, oh, these people are, human beings are usually Rajo dominated, full of stress, ambition, and unfulfilled still. So the desire to enjoy family, honor, and recognition comes from Rajas. Modern society celebrates this mode, but it exhausts the soul and deepens bondage. No freedom here, only work, expectation, and dissatisfaction. Sorry, it just sounds very gloomy, but the idea is like when people approach life without bhakti. But if you're living in a family life within bhakti, it's not speaking about that. So it's speaking about people who don't have devotion. So therefore, the whole material world is more or less in the mode of passion. And why you do what you do? Because many times we don't even recognize how much we are pushed by the mode of passion. Our ambitions come from places we don't even realize fully. Sometimes I want, like, I see another person doing something and I immediately there is a sense of insecurity. Oh, this person does that, so I will also buy this thing, I will also do that. And we think it is just we need it. And if anyone questions why do you want it, we just get irritated, because the reality is we just want to be better than others or do this thing due to lower motivations. We don't even recognize those motivations, where they're coming from. And then whole life we just run around doing so many things, not knowing why we're doing those things. So your ambition might not be your own, it might be a mode whispering in our ears. We just see somebody see something and we just get influenced. And verse 8, which is the mode of ignorance. Ignorance born of darkness deludes all beings. It binds through madness, inertia, and sleep. Tamas is born of ignorance and leads to delusion and inertia. It binds the soul through laziness, confusion, intoxication. So this is the most dangerous mode, because it keeps one spiritually blind and resistant to truth. Why we speak about mode of sattva as better? Because in that state, you are highly likely to get an association of a devotee. Even when they say things, you might vibe with it. If people say, oh, you should not be eating meat, someone in the mode of goodness may say, yeah, it's causing violence to other people. So they'll be able to get it. Even if they're currently not practicing, they'll be able to get it. And they'll be able to give it up also easily. They'll be able to see the validity in what you're explaining. However, if somebody is really, really in mode of darkness, it becomes very difficult for them to see the truth, because they're very far away from it. So they become very unable to change their desires. They just lose their ability to transform themselves. They feel helpless. I see sometimes when I walk to Bhakti Center next to our subway station that people are just lying in the street, just looking like that. Like they've become zombies. Sometimes young people, believe me, if you just like dress them well and make them stand, nobody will think they are like drug addicts. People who are well built, people who are young, who are able to do things in the world, they're just like standing there asking for $1. My heart sings when I see those things, because here is a person who's like well built, like taller than me, stouter than me, has full physical strength, but mentally completely has lost, because they're standing like, it's not just because they are having some mental issue or anything. They're just addicted to some drugs. standing there, just asking, brother, give me $1. Just stuttering. It's because the drug has taken away that ability from them. So they become unable to even change themselves. It's very hard to help in that state. So we don't want to go into that state because it becomes very difficult to come out of it. It's exact opposite of knowledge. Cannot see reality, even though the eyes are widely open. So the symptoms include like oversleeping, because see, not everything is one tamas. There is also like gradation in it. We need little tamas to every day go to sleep. But sometimes we are depressed, and then we don't want to face reality, and we just want to sleep. We don't want to see anyone. We don't want to speak to anyone. We don't want to get up from our bed sometimes. We don't want to see the world because we just cannot handle it. So it's a sign of something wrong. So it's not that we are responsible for it. Maybe somebody else is causing it and we are being influenced by it, and all those things are there. However, we don't need to go and suffer like that. We can gradually be free from those things. So oversleeping, intoxication, depression, resistance to do anything, inertia. So such a person actually can, if not there is a serious intervention by spiritual association, these people have very little hope. So there are many institutions that help people come out of alcohol influence and drug influence. There are so many anonymous institutions. Still, even if you see the Alcoholic Anonymous, they take shelter of God a lot. They clearly say the first step a person can become free from addiction is to actually accept that this thing, I am out of my control. This thing is controlling me. God, please help me. So that realization that I have lost control over my life, that sobriety is required. So a madman cannot understand what is what. Prabhupada just puts it in his style. Very clear. So we are all mad when we become influenced by the mode of ignorance. We all become mad. So many times life feels very stuck. We just don't want to do things. We know if I do this, life will change, but we just don't have energy to do these things or interest. We procrastinate because it is not just us. We are not bad people. Rather, we are in an energetic state where we are unable to rise above. So if we transform our energetic state, then we can actually rise above it, and we will be quote normal. And eventually when we rise above all the three modes, then we will really become our original state. We'll come to that original state. So now that Krishna spoke about the three modes, of the symptoms of the three modes, he's concluding it by summarizing them. He says goodness binds to happiness, passion binds one to act more, do more, and ignorance binds one to delusion. They're just like intoxicated, and they just want to be in that state of intoxication, being lost. Many people confuse that, or like many people, like there are two categories of people I see in New York City. On the outside, like I see people who are completely lost to intoxication, and they are homeless, and they are like roaming around and completely. And I go to certain events or like sanghas, and then I see people come and speak, oh, I take this particular stimulant to feel spiritual. There are two extreme categories I see. One is completely lost because of it, and the other is deluded, thinking this will make them spiritual. So occasional interaction with these drugs can make some people feel like, oh, they give some spiritual vision and aerial projection and all these. I experienced a state. It could be to certain extent true, but that's not like what we are trying to do in Krishna conscious. We are trying to be awake and transform our consciousness. How can you transform your consciousness in an unconscious state? In a state of confusion, in a state of lack of control, you cannot transform your consciousness. So taking drugs to influence your consciousness is not the way to actually transform our consciousness. It can show us some subtle things, but that does not mean anything actually. People these days get excited with anything which is like kind of new and like beyond their immediate experience. They think, oh, that's spiritual. Everything subtle is not spiritual. The Wi-Fi signals are also very subtle. Hardly anything spiritual about them. So just because matter has this subtle ability. Matter is not just gross. Matter is also very subtle. All our radioactive signals, infrared signals, and the Wi-Fi signals that we go through, they're all not like very gross. They're very subtle. I pick up phone. I'm sitting in London. I'm speaking to you in US and India and UK. All different. It's all happening just by technology. It's so subtle. What can be more subtle than that? You and me being able to interact when we are apart like thousands of miles away, and still it's all material. So now something is subtle, people confuse it to be spiritual and think, oh, it's like I'll take this and that stimulants to feel spiritual. You don't need to feel spiritual. You are spiritual and you can become spiritual. So even noble work, charity, or education can be rajoguna if done out of ego. Ignorance harms not only the person, but those around them also, believe me. And without spiritual awakening, no mode leads to true freedom. So in a mode of ignorance, whatever one does is good neither for him nor for anyone. So the final 1 or 2 slides. Who's driving today? Our days are being driven by either by wisdom, the mode of goodness, or by desire, mode of passion, or delusion, mode of ignorance. Someone is driving our vehicle at any given point of time. So inner mood has a manager, and find out who's calling the shots. Like basically, we can actually change those modes. Each mode colors are experienced differently. The same thing, people in different modes will experience it differently. So the lessons we can learn from this section is modes shape what we perceive, how we perceive the world, and how we pursue what we pursue in this world, and how do we process this world. All of this thing is shaped by the modes. Each modes, as we just said, colors are experienced differently, and the soul is caught in the material nature. It does not belong to it. It's trapped here. And all the choice we have is only one thing. We don't decide our futures, we just decide our habits, or basically the modes, and those actually decide our futures. In that sense, we actually decide our futures. And we always can think, when we are overcome by something, which of these forces do I find strongest in my life right now? And in any given point of time, there can be one of them. And just knowing is not enough. Knowing can actually stop us, but we won't have the energy to stop ourselves from being attracted to things unless we purify our consciousness. So bhakti needs to come into the picture. Awareness alone is not enough. You need to accept that I'm a patient, but you have to go to the doctor and get a medicine and take the medicine. Just accepting I'm sick is not enough. We have to also take the treatment. Otherwise, we just oscillate between sometimes of moments of clarity, most of the moments of craving and confusion. So life becomes like being pulled in so many directions here and there. That's why Prabhupada concludes this saying, one is happy, another is active, another is helpless. All these types of psychological manifestations are causes of the entity's conditioned status in nature. We are conditioned. So sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are helpless, sometimes we are active, sometimes we are slow, we are bored, we are lazy, sometimes we are selfless, sometimes we are very selfish, angry. So all these are psychological manifestations or causes of our conditioned status influenced by the 3 modes. The more and more we rise above the 3 modes, then we can be situated in the original spiritual state. So thank you.